Welcome to Small Biz Life, episode 154, Marketing Outside the Box.
Woohoo!
Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Small Biz Life. If you're joining us live in Facebook, thanks for being with us. I know this was kind of impromptu. Jeff and I have been sick, so we didn't record at our normal time. I did want to let you guys know that if you will be joining us next week for the recording of the podcast, we're actually moving the recording and we'll be updating all the events and everything on Facebook. But if you want to join us live on Facebook, we're going to be recording at 3:30 on Wednesdays, right, from now on. Is that correct?
Sure.
Okay. So we were recording in the morning. And we're going to be recording in the afternoon. So basically what we do on Wednesdays, to kind of give you a little behind the scenes, is we do our HQ group at 2:00. We go live with them every Wednesday to kind of talk about either, the topic that we're covering that month, or it's cool because next week is going to be a bonus week for them. So we're handling their questions, things they're struggling with. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And then we're going to show them what our content planning strategy looks like, because we were talking about content all this month. So that's pretty exciting. If you want to learn more about HQ, you can go to smallbizlife.com/HQ and check out that program, because I think it's pretty awesome. It's a lot of fun for us to help business owners and to get to know them so well.
And to get into the Facebook group for Small Biz HQ, you do need to be a member, because that's where we record all of our content for the paid members.
Yep, exactly. So, all right. So, every once in a while, we kind of like to do an episode where we talk about some new things we're seeing in marketing, some trends, and to kind of help reground you in marketing. The fall is coming. I think a lot of people are going, oh crap, we're almost at fourth quarter. Maybe you haven't hit your sales goals yet. Maybe you're looking to grow your business or launch a new product. And so this is a really good time to kind of think about what you want to do for your marketing, especially as we go into the fourth quarter of the year on October 1st. So for a lot of people, like, September is kind of a planning month, right? And a getting ready month for that last quarter. So, so let's get to it. So would you like to share one of your ideas, or do you want me to start?
Well, no, I'll go first here. Actually, I think before we go into that, this was sort of precipitated from a mastermind that I belong to, where I was in a hot seat, and I was kind of slapped around for not doing a couple of these things. And I think, there's a trap that we kind of look at our industry, we look at what we've been doing, and we get stuck in this idea of what has to happen, and what should we be working on. And sometimes we miss some things that are really obvious, that are just outside of the area that we think that we're in. And because of that, that's kind of where this episode is coming from. So, and from there, the first one's Patreon. And Patreon is a very nifty idea I hadn't really thought of as a marketing outlet before. I thought that was a place that people went to generate some revenue, to typically support a project they're working on, or a sort of an ongoing type of thing, where people can support your art or what you do. And lots of people do it. Some people make money at it. I think most probably really don't. But it was sort of brought to me, like, why am I not doing this? Because the thing that was sort of the slap in the face was, people are there, if they're looking at your show, they're maybe looking for content like you create, and it's a great way to outreach, to try and at least drive traffic to like your show or to your website. So, think about this congregation of people who are looking for similar things to what you're doing. If they're clicking through on your Patreon account or your Patreon account, and if they're doing that, they're somewhat interested in, maybe you don't get them as a patron, but maybe you get them to your website. So then if you have this stuff set up on your website to pull them in to your funnel, you can, or for us to the podcast, to the website, or however it works, you have a chance to reach people you would never find just because you go onto Patreon.
Can you briefly talk about the types of businesses that could benefit from being on Patreon?
Usually the businesses that benefit the most from Patreon are typically artistic, have some sort of artistic outreach, some sort of creative outreach, I should say, not necessarily artistic. Podcast form businesses, there are lots of podcasts on there, but fine artists, basically anything, especially where there's an expense to create it. That's where people typically want to step in and help support what you're doing. And if nothing else, you might be able to get enough money to help offset like your hosting, just doing a podcast. If you have a decent audio host, that costs money, your website costs money. If you have no products, you're not bringing any revenue, until you probably get to around like 20,000 downloads a month, which most people never will. And then I don't imagine it's that big, until you get to maybe like the top 1% of podcasts. But I see a lot with people who do video production, cartoons, like comic books, authors, anyone where there's an output, typically one that has an expense to it, people typically like to give to help support if they're a fan. Not everyone will, but typically you give them some bonuses, typically related to what you do, and that is a little extra incentive to get them to do. And you typically tell them what you're doing and what you're trying to get to and what you're going to use the money for to help your business out. And that typically drives a lot of interest to help too.
And I would argue that anyone that produces content, if you are producing content on a regular basis, whether you have a YouTube channel, a podcast, a blog, anything where you are helping people, especially I think if you're teaching them something, if you're giving them some sort of value, that's why there's a lot of podcasters on there. It is a good way to expand your reach, because the reason that Patreon works is that people, it's kind of like Kickstarter. People go to Kickstarter to look at projects. People go to Patreon to look at the possible things they could sponsor there. The other thing with Patreon is that for the people that are sponsoring, it will actually recommend other projects to them. Kind of like Kickstarter does with me. I get emails that say, hey, you've backed this sort of project, you might like this as well. And so even, aside from the money piece, like Jeff said, it's a really good way for you to possibly find new people to, listen to your show, follow your YouTube channel, follow your blog, whatever it is you do.
Yeah. And, some people focus their business on Patreon. I know like a lot of YouTube creators do that. And I believe in a diversity of revenue streams. So it's a potential one, but there could be real money in it for you there. But typically the people who are making real money there, that's their focus.
Right. And we're looking at this from a marketing perspective, not as not
a revenue. Yeah.
Right. Exactly. So the next one in that vein, because we've talked to you guys a lot about, making sure that you have a really robust opt-in. And so if this tip is for people that are selling higher end courses. Okay. For a lot of people, they're using the webinar strategy with an opt-in and that kind of thing. So if you're in that area and you have a really robust, a mini course that you're using as your opt-in, one thing that you can do is take that same free opt-in and put it up on Udemy and charge for it. And what that does is that allows you, first of all, people search Udemy for courses. Okay. It gives you some additional legitimacy, right? Because you're on this larger platform, and it allows people a new way to find you that they might not have found you before. So again, we're not talking about this from a money-making perspective. We're talking about this from a marketing perspective and broadening your reach.
And I see that strategy also working for authors of books that help people. So I know one of our HQ members, Aurora, wrote a book to help speakers get picked to speak. And someone like her, maybe she doesn't even want a big course in the back end. She could have a short course to get you started, which her book could act as the back end piece that she's selling there. So it's an alternate way to drive traffic to her book, as well as a course. So I think it works better for a course. To me, it's maybe a little bit of overkill, but as we've been learning, sometimes on lower priced products, it takes just as much and sometimes more work to sell than it does to sell a higher end product where you have a very tangible result that, like, I'll make you $1 million in 24 seconds. I might pay you $1,000 for that.
But so, and the other thing too is on your own website, it kind of adds some legitimacy to your opt-in. You're saying, hey, this is something that I sell for $14.97, but if you come to my website, you can get it for free. Right? If you opt in with me, you can get it for free. Because the problem with Udemy is that you're not going to get the email addresses of the people that buy your course, but you are allowed to kind of upsell people within the course. Because Udemy, essentially, it's an online course platform, right? One of the issues with Udemy, the reason I don't like it as your primary course platform, is because they do a lot of sales, a lot of discounts. A lot of the courses on there, they're like $10. So it's going to be really hard for you to make a massive amount of money on a platform like that. But as a marketing tool, especially if you already have this free mini course that you're using as your opt-in, it's a great way for new people to find you.
Yeah, no, I find it awesome too, because essentially the strategy is you put it in there, you have a bonus module in there which leads them back to your email list or to your sales page for your bigger product, the next thing that you want.
Yeah, no, so I think that's a really great way to get people into your ecosystem. Now, here's the thing, and I think we should have let off with this, and I meant to, and I forgot. If like multiple strategies that we talk about today could work for you, I want you to pick one of them. And I want you to like learn more about it. So like if you decide like, hey, this Patreon thing is really cool, learn more about it, do some research. There's lots of blog posts and YouTube videos out there about how to make an awesome Patreon account, how to, really utilize that and get backers. Go do your research and go do it right. Don't try to kind of, half do a whole bunch of these different things.
Yes.
Pick one.
You'll easily end up with zero patrons.
Right. You'll end up with zero patrons, zero buyers on Udemy, zero opt-ins. Just pick one thing and go. Okay. Okay. So the next thing that I would suggest is that you look at, we talk about avatar here a lot on the show, right? And knowing who your ideal customer is. And, I always say people struggle, they never want to do this exercise. Well, another reason that you need to completely do this exercise, I think a lot of times we sometimes look at our competition for what our competition is doing well in trying to bring in new customers, but we never look at complementary businesses. And so what I mean by that is, let's say that, and I'm going to use Amy because I know Amy was here. Let's say that your avatar is, a woman in her, in her early 40s who is a quilter. And she also really likes, spa experiences. And so look to see what are spas doing in your area that will, that bring people in. Is there something that you can adapt from what they're doing? So like, for example, for Mother's Day, Jeff bought me a spa package. And it was like a half-day thing, and it had a whole bunch of different treatments. And it was cool because he was just like, I'm just going to buy this, and it's got a whole bunch of stuff, and it'll be great.
Because I have no idea exactly what the best one is.
Exactly. So, if you're working in a retail environment and that really works for men to be able to buy something like that for their spouse, then put things like that together at major holidays to make it easier for men to spend money at your store. Right. And I would even, to the point that it's, we'll go back to Amy because she's a quilter. Maybe it's, a quilting package with a class, and it comes with, all of the material and everything, and it's wrapped up really pretty, and it's got a gift card, and literally all the significant other has to do is sign his name on the card, and it is done.
Yeah. And the reason that works too is, it's like, sometimes you hear, it's like, you're supposed to say, oh, I wish I knew how to do that. I wish I knew how to do that. So it's a good way to inject people who haven't quite crossed the line, but a spouse to go, oh, I know they want to do that. If I can speak to the spouse and sell the present to them, I'm going to do that. The thing is, it's like, I remember when Kristen used to knit a lot. She loved knitting. I knew this. Unless I knew a specific thing she wanted, I always stayed away from buying stuff for her because I didn't know enough about knitting. Nor am I going to learn enough about knitting to sit there and go, okay, this is this kind of yarn that she likes. I know she's picky about yarn. I know it's sock yarn because I know she does socks all the time, which isn't quite true. But, I still, I can go, it feels soft, but I don't know if it's good yarn. I don't want to risk the time. I might spend a lot on needles for her maybe once, but, for the other stuff or to get her deeper in, I just don't know enough to try.
Yeah, and I think, and you can kind of confirm this, but I think most guys don't like buying gift cards.
No, I don't. I think that's certain people don't like to buy gift cards. I know I don't like to buy. I like a tangible gift in someone's hand. It's a little bit different, I guess, when you get older and you've been married for forever. But yeah, in general, it's like you want the meaningful gift. The meaningful gift is, I know you want a quilt. Here's that package put down for you. There's a class to get started. Maybe there's a coupon to get money off of one of the store quilting machines, if there's such a thing. I know I'm thinking a little bit of Leanne with the sewing. So, or I guess she does knitting machines.
Knitting machines, yeah.
I think there has to be a quilting machine because you put the quilting pattern in. So maybe there's a certain type of machine you do that with. A sewing machine, I would assume. This shows how much I know about this stuff.
Amy's probably like laughing so hard.
But it's like, but maybe there's a discount coupon if she needs a sewing machine, and I don't know what sewing machine to get her. I'm not going to buy one. She might not know if this is a person who just wants to learn too. So.
Yeah. And, and the other thing I consider doing too, especially for the big holidays, is think about how you can partner with businesses that serve your avatar. So I'm kind of thinking, especially I know Jeff likes there to be a tangible gift. So, let's say that you do offer, a class for somebody to take, but you don't want them to just get like a certificate. Maybe you partner with a local florist and say, hey, listen, if you're willing to put some of my quilting kits into your store, when I sell gift certificates, the gift certificates, there's going to be an add-on bonus that if the person wants to add flowers, they can add flowers to that, and kind of see how can you partner with other businesses in order to, expand your reach out. So, florists are always looking for things that they can add on to a flower delivery, right? Because one of the things that's really tough for florists is that the flowers are going to die. And so people are moving away from that because it's a very temporary gift. And so what florists are looking to do is say, okay, well, here's flowers and something meaningful that will live beyond the flowers. So maybe it's a quilting class, or it's a small, knitting kit or something like that people can package with the flowers. And so if you can partner with others in your community, maybe it's a jewelry store and you're partnering with them. Think about things that you can do, especially like for Valentine's Day, Mother's Day, Christmas, the bigger holidays where people spend a lot of money on women. If women are your avatar, that's a really good thing to think about.
Well, I like the florist idea too, because especially they get around certain times of year where it gets really busy. It's tough for them too. So if you give them the tangible stuff at that point, maybe you use Valentine's Day to leak in some business into your store. So if you're selling to women who are going to get flowers, married women, give the stuff so it's an easy thing for them to stuff in the basket when they're really busy. They will appreciate it, And you might get some Valentine's business your way, where normally maybe you don't get Valentine's Day business.
Yeah, and so Amy's actually watching on Facebook, and she said the tangible gift is a good point. She does gift certificates, but she's thinking about doing gift baskets. So even if you did something that there's, some little notions and things, and the gift certificate goes into that, at least it's something tangible that the person can give. So, really think about things like that.
And my suggestion for something like that too is, where there's a wide range of skill levels, you might not have them necessarily, you might have one and you have to put them together or whatever. But if you have if there are a few different skill level versions that you could buy, because my wife's already a quilter, she doesn't want the basic stuff, but maybe there's something more advanced that can be thrown her way. Like I said, I don't know.
Well, and that's too, I think that's where we talk a lot about, the big box stores versus the little guys. The thing that keeps the smaller stores is that they know their customers.
Yeah.
And so if my local knitting store, if I know I can send Jeff in there, and they will say, oh, well, Jeff, your wife, she's a sock knitter. These are things she really likes. This is the kind of yarn she buys. We think she would like this.
Yeah.
I think if Jeff knew that he could go into a knitting store like that and get that kind of help, I think he'd be much more likely to buy me knitting stuff. Right?
Yeah, almost definitely. Because right now there's a pattern thing. She's bought patterns. I don't even know if she has that. So I'm probably not going to even buy a kit for her. So, I just don't know what to get.
Right. So, and
I don't like to ask. Because it needs to be a surprise.
No, I know. So going off the partner thing, I think as business owners, and this is especially for online businesses, but even if you have a brick and mortar business, or you have a work from home business, you need to get out into your community. You need to meet the other business owners. You need to see what's working for them. And I think, it's funny because a lot of us who are in the online space, we're fighting other people in the online space, right? And we're fighting for people who kind of already know what we do and kind of already understand, where there is this huge blue ocean that is untapped of local business owners who have no idea what we are doing online, right? They don't understand Facebook ads. They don't understand messenger bots. They don't get email marketing. They don't get any of this stuff. And so we're all fighting, right? Oh God, we're all fighting in this red ocean of people who already kind of, they understand why this stuff is important. When there's this untapped group of local business owners that nobody's offering these services for. And so I would highly recommend that, and I talk about this all the time, your local chamber of commerce is a great way for you to get out there. And here's the cool thing about chambers of commerce. You typically do not need to work or live in a town to join their chamber, right? You just have to want to do business there. So when we started Jeff's first business, I think we were in 5 or 6 different chambers.
There's 3 I remember. We might have been in North. There might have been 4. I don't know if we were ever part of Hartford's, because that was
we were for a while. And then we realized, that wasn't, that the demographic wasn't right.
It wasn't my avatar.
Right. But the cool thing is that, most of them have a list of their members on their website. You can kind of see hey, are these the kind of businesses that I want to network with? And it's a great way to make connections in your local area. I mean, that's how I built the accounting firm.
Yep.
Because the thing I found, and I have found this, there are virtual assistants are not going to chamber events. People who do online marketing are not going to chamber events.
Especially for service providers, it's crazy not to.
Right. Accountants are not going to chamber events. So if you are in a service field, I'll tell you, the chambers are typically full of realtors, insurance people, financial people, let's see, a lot of contractors. And so if you're trying to tap those markets, you need to get out to your local chamber.
And if nothing else, typically realtors, insurance guys, and financial people know lots of people in the
They
area.
know everybody. Yeah.
So they're like, oh, I have no need for you, but I know 15 people who do. We should exchange cards.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, those are invaluable contacts. Accountants, which you won't find there, but also fall into that category of just knowing so many people in the area. It's a great way in, and I think too, outside the box, one of the things that online businesses and store businesses don't do well together is they don't partner with each other. So like if you have a store and you sell knitting supplies, we keep going back to knitting. We'll say a role-playing game shop, because just to get to someplace new. You sell a shop that sells role-playing games. You don't really have an online presence. You don't understand it because you're a traditional business owner. Go surf the internet, find some bloggers, podcast or whatever, reach out to them, see if there's some type of quid pro quo thing that you can work out with each other. Just to maybe get some just verbal speaking about of your store.
Yeah. And I think too, I know that we have some authors that listen to the show. I think a lot of times authors, they publish their book, they put it out there, they get it on Amazon. They're like, haha, ta-da, I have a book. But yet they don't try to do any events with their book. Right. And so if you are in the sci-fi fantasy space, there are gaming stores that are always looking to have events to bring people into their store. There are, in addition to the indie bookstores, there are coffee shops in your area that will allow you to have events. There might be small gift stores in your area that will let you have events. So, again, it's kind of going back to the third point that we made when we were talking about partnerships. Look at where your avatar hangs out.
Yeah.
And say, you know what? I want to see if I can partner with them to have a book signing, to have a speaking engagement.
At certain types of places, like local microbreweries might be interested if they have events that happen there. Small indie spaces typically love helping other indie people. It's where your people are at. That's the whole Udemy Patreon lesson. It's where are people at who are looking for your thing? That's where you need to be. And you're probably not there.
But, as you're starting to think about your fourth quarter planning, right, and where you want to go with that, it's really time to think about, okay, what have I done marketing wise in the past, right? What has worked, what hasn't worked? And I think that's probably the last point that we want to make, is that sometimes we do things that work and then we say, okay, that worked once, that's cool. And then we try a whole bunch of other things that didn't work and we never go back to the thing that did work. And so sometimes we have to actually go back inside the box and go, oh, remember this one thing that was really successful? Let's do that again. So, as you're going into the fourth quarter, really think about kind of what you're doing, what's working, what's not working, and then maybe think about one of these strategies. And see, and what you might need to do is maybe you join your local chamber, you go to a chamber meeting and you find some people to partner with. Okay. But, don't try to implement this entire episode at one time.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like the way we push social media. Get really good at one thing, go all in, move to the next thing after you've mastered it.
Exactly. Absolutely. So, if you have any questions about this or you have any great outside the box marketing tips, you can go to our group, which is smallbiz.life on Facebook. That's facebook.com/group/smallbiz.life, and come join the conversation with us, because, now is the time that if you haven't hit those goals for the year, you want to put together the plan to do that. So thank you guys so much, and we will see you next time.